I have been with the foundation for 23 years, and honestly, the best part of my career has been helping so many students from all across the country land internship opportunities and get their foot in the door. I have seen many of our program alum go on to become network execs, producers, development execs, writers, directors, editors, sound mixers, casting directors, production designers, and so on and so on and so on. Some have even been nominated for Emmy Awards, and some have actually won. So the goal for tonight is to familiarize all of you with our summer internship program. We will talk about the submission process as well as areas of interest and give you some tips for submitting your best application. You will also get the chance to hear from 3 of our alum from our most recent summer class who will share their experiences with our program. Feel free to put questions into the Q&A box throughout, and we will save those for the very end. So let's go ahead and get started. It is the Television Academy Foundation's mission to preserve and celebrate the history of television while educating and inspiring those who will shape its future. The Television Academy Foundation has nurtured thousands of talented students, providing essential resources that help them discover their voices, refine their skills, and forge rewarding careers in every sector of the television industry. Moving on, now let's talk about these internships. All of our summer opportunities are paid full-time for 8 weeks in Los Angeles. More than 50 students will be placed in over 20 different areas of the television industry, and we'll get to those areas in a bit. And it is our voting Television Academy members, the same people who select the nominees and the winners of the prestigious Emmy Award, who also review our internship applicants and select the finalists. Moving on. Let's take a look at some of these areas of interest. So, for example, if you're a casting intern, you could be working with the team that's casting Stranger Things at Carmen Cuba Casting. If you're interested in development, you could be reading scripts and writing coverage on a potential new hot show at FX, ABC, or Disney. If you're an entertainment news person, you could be learning from the pros at Extra. And if writing is your focus, you could be spending time in the writer's room for a show like Abbott Elementary, learning from the writers, experiencing the process. Keep in mind that you can only make one entry into one category, so be sure you make the right choice that's best for you. This is an extremely competitive internship program. Let's move on. As well as our full-time nationwide summer program, we also have fall and spring paid part-time opportunities for students who go to school in the greater Los Angeles area or a semester in LA program. Moving on. How to apply. So all of our applicants are required to submit a professional statement. And this is where you have the opportunity to showcase yourself. What makes you unique? Why are you interested in your particular category? What can you bring to the experience? Really, what is your passion? Why do you love television? So for this particular area, I always tell students to think about your college application essay. How did you present yourself in the best possible light when people were reading you who did not know you? So you want to put yourself across within your professional statement. You also need to submit your resume, and we certainly don't expect you to have a ton of industry experience, your students, but really think about the jobs that you've had. What transferable skills do you bring to the table? So for example, if you're a barista, you're probably quick on your feet, you're detail oriented. If you're in customer service, you most likely have excellent people skills. So think outside the box. Think about what you bring to the table and own every single job, every single part-time job that you have had, because every single job is valuable and you can bring those experiences with you to the next job. Your letter of recommendation. This needs to come from an academic or someone who knows you in a supervisory position and can really speak to your maturity and work ethic. So this is an important one. This is something that I suggest that if you are planning to apply, which I hope all of you are, you definitely want to reach out to your referee sooner rather than later to get that letter of recommendation so they don't get bombarded at the very end. And then we have your transcripts, and your transcripts are not about your grades. The judges who are reviewing your applications want to see what coursework you've had to support your category choice. Some of our categories also require additional materials. For example, you would need to submit work samples in some of the creative categories like editing or directing, script writing, and so on. Moving on. For students attending tonight who go to college or university within Southern California, we do offer 2 additional opportunities. Let's take a look right now at our Getting Real Unscripted program.
That's right, it's Lizzo.
I feel like Unscripted is a really exciting place to work in because literally the options are limitless. Like you can go any direction. There's so many different combinations of things that you can try.
I think what makes it exciting to work in reality TV is that you're meeting like real people who you could meet on the street, and it kind of reinforces the idea that everyone has a story.
Unscripted, there's always like something different every time you go into the workplace, something new to experience. You really have to learn how to adapt to your environment because every day it's a new day. Nothing is ever the same.
The Getting Real internship program is an amazing opportunity for young people to get access into this industry.
Because it's specifically targeted towards students from underrepresented communities who just traditionally haven't had a pathway in.
And so we wanted to create that opportunity by creating an internship program that would not only bring them in, but also communicate to them the possibilities of careers in television.
Our interns are assigned to the development department. They'll be given assignments including casting, research, writing. They can even pitch ideas if they'd like.
They'll be able to pick up a camera. They'll be able to tell their story, show to the world kind of what they find interesting, and I think that's an exciting opportunity.
I learned what a contact sheet is, how to outreach to people.
Making spreadsheets, which I found out is one of my favorite things to do. And also I got the opportunity to learn Photoshop for the first time.
From the beginning, it was just constant acceptance, constant, what do you bring to the table? Oh, you know what? Let me help you bring more. Let me help you grow and thrive, regardless of what you don't know, because you're here to work with us.
These interns are paid. And so we really look at them like we look at any employee. They're not just getting coffee, they're actually participating in the process.
We want them to be exposed to how it really is to develop television shows.
Not only am I Latino, but I'm also transgender, and I have not seen anybody like me in the industry.
There just needs to be more representation, because when there's more stories, you're gonna look at the TV and be like, hey, I can be like that person, but also behind the screen.
This business is not a business that's gonna come find you. You have to go find it. Applying for Getting Real is that first step.
So with this internship program, I for sure was able to try out a lot of different positions, and I was able to learn a lot of different things that are gonna be major for me to move up in this industry.
I like to say my internship experience was life-changing, but everything that has happened this past year for me is like thanks to the Television Academy Foundation internship. And I know that's crazy, but like it's true, so.
So as well as Getting Real Unscripted, we also offer special opportunities for foster youth college students who are attending college, university in the greater Los Angeles area as well. You can see here what some of our former interns from this past summer have had to say about their experience. The common thread here, you'll notice, is access and the importance of community, making connections with like-minded individuals, and networking, networking, networking. So important when you're here to just really start building that community of folks around you. You never know who you're going to meet, where you're going to meet them, who you're going to meet people through. And this is really your opportunity to get to know these people, stay in touch with these people, and forge those relationships, which could also turn into potential future partnerships. Moving on. You can take a look here at a small sampling of some of our notable alums. And I remember when several of them sat across my desk, anxious and nervous to start their internships, filling out their paperwork, thinking they can't believe that they're here. They never thought this would be them. And look at them now. We could not be more proud of them. So we would love to see some of your faces up there too in the future. Moving on. So let's talk about some tips. I want to give you some tips on filling out your application on our application portal. Most importantly, It is very important to follow up on your recommendation letter. It is your responsibility to make sure that your referee has completed that so that you are able to complete your application. We do honestly get a lot of folks and faculty who come after the fact and try to submit late letters on behalf of you, their students, and unfortunately, we cannot accept those. So that's why, again, I suggest that you start thinking early about who you do want to go out to get those letters of recommendation and get on that as soon as possible. Your transcripts, you want to be sure that you include all your transcripts, both your undergrad and graduate. If you have transferred from a 2-year to a 4-year, or from a 4-year to a 4-year, or a 2-year to a 2-year, or what have you, we do want to see all of your transcripts. And that is not for your grades. This is really, again, for your coursework. They want to know that you are ready to take on the task and the role of the internship that you have just received, or that you're trying to receive. And then check the word count for your professional statement. Honestly, you will be disqualified for going more than 5 words over the allotted word count. We do give you a nice amount of space to tell us about yourself, again, what makes you unique and why this is the best opportunity for you, what you can bring to the table. But make sure that you pay close attention to that word count. And also double check your spelling, your grammar, and punctuation. Super important. You're in college, so this is important to our members, that they're reviewing your applications and they want to be looking for nice, clean stuff that's coming through. A word to those of you who are studying acting, and a lot of students ask me this. We do not have a performing internship, but if you are studying theater, or you're studying performance, and you're interested in learning the business of the talent side of the industry, and you choose to apply for either a casting or an agency internship, do not mention your goal of becoming an actor in your professional statement. You can certainly include that in your resume, your acting experience, but if you really are going for agency or casting, agents and casting directors literally don't want to hear that somebody wants to become an actor or actress. They want to know that you want to be the best agent or casting director they've ever seen. It is definitely important that you understand the business side of this. So I sincerely recommend that if acting is something that you're interested in, that you take a look at those 2 categories and see that if either of those are right for you. And lastly here, we currently do not accept international students for our opportunities. No late materials accepted, absolutely no exceptions. So I hope that this was informative and that you will all think about sending in an application to our program. We opened up our platform this last Monday on the 28th, and we will stay open until January 19th. And now I would like to introduce our panelists for this evening, who are 3 of our former interns from the summer of 2022. So please welcome Jules Crosby, who was a script writing intern on The Boys, Kaylin Rowerdink, who was a script writing intern on The Penguin, and Dara Adadara, who was a casting intern at Kim Coleman Casting. So thank you all for being here. It's nice to see you. Again, I told you I would nab all of you for a panel at some point after your internship, and here you all are. So this is great. So let's go ahead and get started. I am really curious, and I think that the group is curious too. What made, you can all answer this question just very briefly, and we'll start with you, Jules. What made you decide to apply for this particular internship program?
Yeah, of course. One very fateful Google search, honestly. And also I'm obsessed with watching the Emmy Awards every year. And so I naturally just thought to look for an internship program here.
Nice. Kaylin.
Yeah, I had the same fateful Google search as Jules, stumbled across it online. And I was just in awe of how for the writing program, it offered just an in-depth look into the writer's room and having that kind of hands-on experience there. And that really drew me in and made me want to apply.
Yeah, for me, I heard about it through my college. And so I actually applied twice. And so I just kind of loved the fact that you can know about what happens behind the scenes. And I was a casting intern, so knowing what happens behind the scenes of who we get to see on screen. And I thought that this was a great in-depth look into like the process of that. And I really wanted to be a part of this internship and this internship program.
Great. And I think it's important too, Jules, sorry, where did you go to school, or where do you currently still go to school?
Yes, so I'm a senior at the University of Miami.
And Kaylin?
So I just graduated this past spring from the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Dara?
I'm a senior at the University of Southern California.
Awesome. So you can see that we have sampling of folks from across the country that are with us here today. So again, and this is for the three of you too, how did you feel about the application process? Did you find it to be daunting at all? Was it relatively, easy? How did you feel about it? Anyone can start.
Yeah, I can start. I found it, honestly, I loved that this was like one of the places that lets you talk about a professional statement as opposed to like a cover letter. Cause like it lets you speak more about yourself and tell them about you and tell you guys about who we are as people and we want to be in the industry. And I think it can be daunting with like the letter of recommendation and the transcript and all of that. But I think that once you like put in your hard work and you showcase your hard work, then it'll speak for you. And like, if you've accomplished these different things and if it shows that you're working towards this goal in the industry, then it'll show for you and it'll speak for you. So it can be a little bit daunting and a little bit scary, but as long as you're prepared and you have people who you know will speak well on you, then you'll be fine.
Jules, you want to take that?
Yeah. Let me piggyback off of that. Essentially the same sentiment there. I'd say the only difference being that with that writing program, you do have to submit a couple samples. And I remember being a little worried about that. But ultimately I was really excited to get to show everyone like what I was capable of. And I think you just have to really take all of the steps required to apply as an opportunity. And so I remember, I think I had to send in a spec script, I believe, in that first round. And then that final round, you have to send in your own original script, whether it's comedy or drama. And that did take a lot of work, definitely got lack of sleep a couple days, but I produced my first episode and that's the most satisfying feeling ever. And then I got accepted into the program. So I guess someone had to like it. So yeah, daunting, but definitely satisfying in the end.
Yeah, and then I had a similar experience to Jules as also a screenwriting intern, only in drama. It was definitely the writing samples that were the most daunting and challenging parts. Especially, I remember I found the internship program, I think 2 weeks before the application was due, the initial application. So I had to really focus in order to get that in on time. But kind of like Jules was saying, it was just though it was really challenging and took a lot of time, it was just so enjoyable to really put a lot of effort and into a script and kind of find a way to show all of like everything of why I enjoy writing, and like being able to like hear back and hear that people enjoyed it through the spec scene and then the final script for the final application. But yeah, that was definitely the challenging part, was putting that aspect of the application together.
Well, it doesn't sound like it was too horrible, which is good. We're doing something right. So that I love to hear that. I think too, it would be really interesting, and I'd love for all three of you to answer this question. And Dara, we'll start with you, and then Jules, if you want to take it after that. As a casting intern, Dara, can you tell us a little bit about what your day-to-day looked like at your internship?
Yeah, so I was a remote intern, so I did all of my hours remotely and not out of the office. But even with that, Kim Coleman Casting, they made me feel like a part of their family, and they really like checked in on me kind of every day and making sure that I was like getting stuff done and giving me things to do. So on a day-to-day, it's hard to say because like every day is different for like any job in the industry. But usually like my mornings would look like me getting videos from one of the associates and then uploading it into Breakdown Express. And that would probably take like a good chunk of my morning. And then I would get like a project right before like my lunch break. And then it would be my lunch break. And then I'd work on the project kind of until like 5-ish when I was kind of done with that day. And that project would be like, it could be like a pick list, which is like where you get pictures of like actors that they're considering for a role. And then you look at their agents and you look at all of their credits and their most recent credits, and you just make a whole list of that. So that could take a couple hours. But that would be my day-to-day, just kind of looking at either self-tapes or making lists. That could take you the whole day.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was so absorbed in hearing what Dara's day-to-day was like. So my day-to-day, and Nancy probably remembers this. When I first got my internship, we had just going back and forth about how I could get out there because it was fully in person initially. And I had just come back from a semester abroad, and the way my bank account was looking, I was like, I cannot. And I'm so grateful for the TV Academy Foundation and for the boys and Kripke Enterprises for just making it so accessible. So I was able to do most of it at home. And then I went out to LA for like the last 2.5, 3 weeks. I'd say my day-to-day was kind of unreal. Now I think about it, like I miss it. I would sit in the writer's room and I would do research for the upcoming season of The Boys. Probably not going to speak anymore about that. And then I guess I would go to different meetings. I would go to tone meetings. I'd go to, VFX meetings, wardrobe meetings. And it's something that you really can't grasp until after the internship, like the accessibility you have, because some of those meetings, like writers aren't even allowed in them, like only executive producers and so it was just really cool to be a fly on the wall for some of those meetings. I would do a lot of research, a lot of kind of like script coverage. And also at the time, they had this undisclosed spinoff show that has now been announced called Gen V. And so it was really cool to kind of be in the room, hearing like the start of a show and like true development of the first season. So that was really cool, like meeting with like not only like the team at The Boys, but like Amazon Prime, the studio, and like Sony Pictures Entertainment, and just like being in those meetings in those spaces. So yeah, I'd say that was typically my day-to-day, was waking up, going to the writer's room, and then, yeah, figuring it out from there.
Yeah, and for the Penguin, my day-to-day was a lot of the similar things. I'd show up in the office and help set everything up, and throughout the day, being able to be in the room, I would be able to read each draft of the script as it was coming out, as revisions were made, which was super unreal. Being able to see all the changes that were being made, being able to be part of those discussions as the writers were figuring out where the limited series would go. I also can't say much about the content because that show doesn't come out for another, I think they said 2024. But like, kind of like what was being said, that's entirely unreal to have that insider access to what's happening, how it's being put together, the different conversations being had between writers and the executive producers, and other members of the team. But yeah, a typical day-to-day would be being in the room, helping support the writers in any way, being able to read the scripts, do research, and all that kind of other support work too. But yeah.
So a fun, interesting little tidbit of information there. Jules talking about interning for The Boys. Eric Kripke, who created The Boys, is actually one of our alum from our internship program. So it shows you that our alum go on and do amazing things and then want to give back and continue to nurture the next generation of industry pros. So we love to see that. Okay, so how about this, Dara? Because you were remote, which again, moving forward with summer of 2023 in this new world that we're living in, this new post-ish pandemic world, our opportunities, really depending on the hosting companies, will be either remote, hybrid, or fully in person, as they have been in 22 as well. So Dara, how would you explain, did you have any obstacles working remotely, and how did you overcome those?
Yeah, I think the obstacle of working remote was very hard for me because I'm very much an in-person person and a personable person, and getting like vibes by meeting somebody. And I think that that was probably something hard for me to overcome. But after like the first week, I'd say they made it very easy. And I say that you should just keep in constant communication, because sometimes like it would be a morning and I would be like, am I supposed to be doing something? They haven't really let me know anything yet. But I think don't be afraid to ask, and never think it's a stupid question. Like there are actually no dumb questions in this, because everybody knows that we're all there to learn something new. And so I think not being afraid to ask questions that you think like will make you look less than you are, don't be afraid to do that. And I feel like I had to get over doing that to try to make myself kind of look better for them, but they're going to take you as you are. You got into the internship, so you have a lot of qualities and a lot of things that make you already like know that you're capable of doing it. And so I think I had to remember that, and that was probably something that I had to overcome, was asking questions and not being afraid to ask questions. And it is hard because it is remote, so keeping in constant communication and just checking in, like, good morning, like, is there anything you need from me today? And like something as simple as that, or how was your weekend, it goes very, very far. So
Thank you. And then Jules, you had a situation where you started out working remotely and then came in for those 2 weeks or so. Can you tell us if this happened? Was there a moment where you thought, I made a mistake, or, I didn't do that right? And if there was, if you could share with us what that was and how you dealt with that, that would also be helpful.
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to think. It's less about making a mistake and more about just like not knowing things. And it kind of goes to what Dara was saying, is like just not being afraid to ask questions. I'm not afraid to ask questions. And I think like that was honestly, like one of the more beneficial experiences I'd say that came out of being remote, was that like you had to ask questions or else you were just going, like, you had to kind of make the work happen, because it's on you, right? Like it's on your initiative and it's on your drive. And I think like because I was remote for so long, everyone was just so understanding of that. And like I kind of had like the time to ask questions when I was confused and stuff. So it wasn't really, I don't think I really made any large like mistakes. Sorry. I don't think I made any like large mistakes, as it was like, just for instance, like when I went into a certain meeting and I would like show up with my camera on, they're like, absolutely not for this meeting. And I'd be like, got it. Or like script coverage, like just certain formats about how they want things, and just really not being afraid to ask questions will kind of avoid the troubles you have to go to in like remedying an issue. I found that like I didn't experience many errors or issues because like I was always very proactive in asking 73 questions before I did anything. So I hope that answers it well.
No, that was great. And then Kaylin, I remember you were one of the last interns to come in for the summer, and you had to get out to Los Angeles pretty quickly. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Of course. Yeah, I remember when I got the internship, it was the last week of June, and I had about 3 weeks to make it down to LA, because they really wanted me to be fully in person, which I was really excited about. But it was a very quick turnaround time for me to move from Wisconsin and move to LA for 2 months, where I had never been. But I thought it was a really great experience to kind of get me out of my comfort zone, because I knew I really wanted this opportunity. I remember as I was first navigating it, the foundation was really supportive and like offering different suggestions on like who to reach out to, where to look at like housing options, how being able to help me get out there as within a certain area outside of, I believe it's LA, they're able to offer assistance with flights out to LA and everything. But yeah, being able to have the foundation's back and like support to help navigate that, as well as the team at the Penguin, they were able to offer their advice for navigating the area. And yeah, so that was kind of my experience, kind of making the jump over to somewhere I had never visited before. So yeah, kind of jumping off what Dara and Jules have said, don't be afraid to ask everyone questions, whether that's from the foundation, whether it's the team that you're being placed with. Just ask, because they know so much, and they're so willing to kind of give you advice and support in any way you need.
Well, that's good to hear. I like to hear that. So I think too, everyone knows the importance, the big networking word. That is the word for folks to really get to know one another within this industry, because really that is how your first job leads to your second job, and so on and so forth. So Dara, you started talking about how, you're really a people person, and being remote, wasn't as easy for you. But I think, can you all briefly just sort of touch upon, I'm imagining you met a lot of people this summer. What are you doing to nurture and foster those relationships?
Yeah, so the networking opportunities were amazing. We got to kind of be in person at the academy like once a week with the professional like meetings, and that was great. And I think we also had the networking night for the foundation gave us, and that was great because that was the first time really that like we got to all be in one space and kind of like have a relaxed kind of night, but also like talking to different people and just speaking to them. And the thing about networking isn't trying to like be like, oh, well, let me say the right perfect thing. It's more just like talking about yourself also and just seeing like what things about somebody else like you can relate to and how does that foster a relationship. But I think the best thing about cultivating a relationship and keeping it is just knowing when to check in and also how often to check in with somebody that you've met. And I think that that's probably like the one thing that I learned, because I keep in pretty good communication with people at the foundation and people at Kim Coleman. And I think it's just knowing when and how often to speak to them. And I think it was really good to like see everybody and meet everybody at the networking night that night. And from that, and from like Nikki, who also is a part of the head of the internship program, she saw me that night and like being kind of out there. And from that, I was able to be a trophy presenter for the Emmys as well. And so I think that that was a really great networking opportunity as well. And so I think that the foundation has presented me with amazing opportunities and amazing networking opportunities. So I think just showing people like who you are, it can never go wrong. So I think that that's been really, really good, and just keeping constant communication.
Great. Jules, you want to add to that?
I do, if you don't mind. First off, to the 917 people here, please go on YouTube and look at this year's most recent Emmy Awards primetime to see Dara putting out trophies, because she did look gorgeous. But I'm laughing at myself thinking about Dara and I when we went to the Creative Arts Emmy Awards. When we were leaving, we had business cards ready to hand out, and there was these two people who asked us who we were. Like, who are you two? And I guess it was just the way we were walking, and I'm just laughing thinking about it. Just like in that moment, like this is a really great opportunity to just be in a really neat space and walking like you deserve to be there. And so when it comes down to networking, I just ultimately think like going in with confidence that once you get this internship, you're supposed to be here is everything. And like I said, I can't forget how like people literally thought Dara and I were supposed to be like on stage. And we were just like, like, here's my business card though. And Dara knows I handed her about 25 when I heard she was going to the primetime ones. I told her to hand both of ours out at the same time. But altogether, I'm still connected with people I met, not only at my internship, but at the Emmy Awards, which is even crazier. And it's definitely about knowing when to reach out to them. And I think you learn that along the way. And that's something that my intern, like KEI in particular, they were very, very helpful in like kind of giving me those guidelines and those procedures. But networking is truly the most valuable thing you can take out of all of this, because you really find out it's really about who you know. And not only that, sorry to talk for so long, but continuing, I actually did get to meet the comedy writing, I don't know if it was comedy, the screenwriting intern from 2019, Jamil Quinn, and Dara and I went out to dinner with him. And when I went back out to LA for the Emmy Awards, I stayed with him for a bit, went out with him. And it's just really cool to have like a big brother almost and like a mentor in that space. And so you really do get to connect with not just people from your group, but from groups prior. And Jamil just wrote and produced his first episode of NCIS Los Angeles.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did. And so he definitely heard from me when that happened, and he'll continue to hear from me. So definitely, I can't emphasize enough the importance of networking.
So I just want to mention too, to those of you on the call listening today, that we were very fortunate this past summer. We were able to invite our interns to attend the Creative Arts Emmy Awards, which was fantastic. And then we were also super excited because we were asked to reach out to some of our interns, and the production company selected a few of them to be trophy presenters for the Primetime Emmy Awards. So that is not something I can guarantee is going to happen every year, but it was definitely happened in 2022. So that is what Jules and Dara are referring to. So again, the networking, super, super important. I am curious, the three of you were all together, the class of 2022. Do you stay in touch with each other?
That Discord chat is kind of active. Someone the other day literally just asked, has anyone heard of any internships going around? So yeah, and I think like Kaylin, we really connected with Chelsea too, who had worked with Abbott Elementary, so the other comedy writing intern. And it was just nice to like meet all of us at that networking night. And I stayed with Dara for the Emmy Awards, and I'll be back soon. She knows that couch is for me. So yeah, you really do get to connect and form a relationship with some of the people you're probably going to be working with someday.
So our interns our program alum do become our alumni, and you then are basically stuck with us for life. We want to know what you're doing. We want to scream your successes from the rooftops. We want to celebrate you when you've been nominated for an Emmy, when you get this next great job or this next great project. I want you to be on panels and host interns and all that really great stuff. So it is literally a lifetime of being connected with like-minded individuals, being connected with our members of the Television Academy, with everyone having the same goal of working in this incredible industry and telling incredible stories. So it's really nice to hear that you guys are taking advantage of that. And as I tell all of my interns, when you guys graduate the program, is that when you do win your Emmy someday, the first person obviously that you want to reach out to and let them know, or when you get nominated, is your parents, and then it's us. So let us know at the foundation. We want to know, you get that first job, you call your family, and the second call, you let us know, because we want to know. We're super proud of all of you. So how about, what advice, and I would like all of you to answer this question. So Kaylin, I'm going to start with you. What advice would you give to an aspiring applicant, somebody who really wants to apply for summer 2023 and maybe doesn't think that they're have the right credentials or they live too far away? What would you suggest?
I would definitely suggest to do it. It definitely seems like it's such an amazing opportunity, and it is something where even when I was first applying, that feeling of, well, I live so far away, such and such, all those things were popping into my head. But it really is such an incredible chance and opportunity to apply. I think my advice, and like while you're working on your application, really emphasize your passion for the field you're choosing. Like for me, I really emphasized how much I loved writing, how much I loved TV, and how much I wanted to combine my passions for the two. Like emphasizing what shows I really love the writing for, and like why those really stood out to me. Just emphasizing that passion and all the skills that you have, like the ways you've developed those skills through whether it be classes, extracurriculars, anything in your life that you've done that really shows that excitement you have for the field, for entertainment and for TV. Really highlighting those skills, I think, is really just important across the whole application process. Let's see. Yeah, that, and like taking your really taking the time to think about like which program you'd really like to do. There's so many amazing ones and so many different opportunities to come from them, but really choose something that feel that you're really passionate about. And then as you keep going through the process, emphasize your passions and make those connections and everything.
Dara, how about you?
Yeah, I'd say my biggest piece of advice is being uniquely yourself kind of throughout the whole application process. I don't think you should try to say things that you want people to hear, or if you think that they like this, so you're gonna say this. Say what you would like and what you would love. And if somebody loves that about you, then it'll be a perfect match. So I think that just try to be true to yourself, and you can never really go wrong. And just be bold and confident in like anything you do, and really stick by your work. And I think that that'll get you very, very far, is just being very confident in what you do and letting them know how much the industry kind of it has impacted you in your life and what you want to do and what you want to see change in the industry and how you can be a part of that by helping them. So I think just being uniquely yourself and just emphasizing, kind of going off what Kaylin said, just really emphasizing like what you like and what you want to do and showcasing it to them.
Yeah, these are all really good. So like Kaylin with passion and then Dara with being uniquely you. I kind of say the same thing, just like make sure you stand out. And they loved my video. It was so rewarding to hear them talk about like watching my video because they were supposed to just send the comedy ones back and say like this was a mistake. But after they watched my video, they saw my personality and they saw like what I was able to bring to the role. And they said, we're going to take this comedy writer. So I think ultimately, like I was able to literally work for the show of my dreams because I showed myself and I was true to myself. So I think that's my biggest piece of advice, just stand out somehow.
Well, thank you all. The video that Jules is referring to is once you are selected as a finalist, then you are required to put yourself on camera answering questions provided by the foundation. So that gives the host company an opportunity, aside from reading through your application packet, they get a feel for you as a person based on your personality from those interview tapes. So that is really, at the end of the day, that's why the three of you are right here on top of all of your, your great applications, your personalities and your passion for the industry really shown through. So congratulations. I think right now we are going to open to question and answer. I know that a lot has been coming through during the presentation, and I'm going to introduce David Jimenez, who is our education programs coordinator. David is going to join me and he is going to start filtering those questions out for all of us. So hi, David.
Hi, everyone. So I've been taking a look at the Q&A and have couple of questions I'm going to throw out. Some of them will be for Nancy. Some of them will be for our fantastic intern alum who are here. The first question I wanted to throw out is, if I am graduating undergrad in May 2023, do I qualify to apply for summer internships?
Yes, you do. If you are graduating in May, June, July, March, anything in 2023, you are eligible for summer 2023 internships. Yes.
Awesome. And then for all of the interns, I have a question here. So what were all of your majors and what would you recommend that an applicant do to set themselves aside from the rest of the applicant pool and stand out? Jules, you want to go first? Oh, sorry, you got it. Okay.
I'm a theater major, acting, and I minor in entertainment industry. So I think it's actually what Nancy was saying earlier. It's very funny because I'm an actor, and I didn't tell my like Kim Coleman casting that I was probably until a little bit later. And so I think just it is kind of what Jules said earlier. It's just like making kind of big, bold choices in your application process will just really help you stand out. And like I said, kind of just making sure you're not saying things that you think people want to hear, just saying what is true to you. That's probably the advice I'd give.
Yeah, I can go. So I majored in English creative writing and film, radio, TV when I was at UW-Madison. And I think a really good way of standing out in your application, kind of what I was saying before, I remember one of the things I really tried to emphasize was the amount of experience I had through coursework and just throughout my college experience. It was mostly classes on the resume I submitted. I put that I'd done workshops. I put that I'd done like a cinematography class. Anything that had to do with writing especially was on that resume, just highlighting the different experience I had. So I think really looking at not only any work experience you have that might tie in and apply to your the program you're looking at, but any coursework, any extracurriculars, finding all those unique ways to tie it into your program and your goals for the entertainment industry. That's a really good way to kind of help your application stand out and kind of weaving that through the rest of your like writing and portfolio and stuff.
That's perfect. So yeah, I study motion picture screenwriting and I minor in journalism. And I agree with everything that has been said. I do think, and I'm not a judge, so this could definitely be off base, but I do think it just really matters. Like, it's more about your personality, I think, and like what you're able to offer to the work environment than anything. People want to just make sure that you're happy and a joy to work with, and that you're going to bring something to the team. beyond just like the formulaic, I can write a script, I can do this, I can do that. So I do think make sure you submit a great script and make sure you submit a great writing material if you are trying to apply for the writing internship program, but really put the bulk of your focus on that personal statement, and make sure that like you say something that makes you unforgettable. Like that sounds so corny and cheesy, and I'm so sorry that like it's impossible to just like think about, but you know what I mean. Like just make a personal statement that when they finish reading it, like they think about it. You know what I mean? So I think that's ultimately the best advice I could give.
I agree.
Awesome. And I'm seeing a couple of questions coming into the Q&A as well about the letter of recommendation. So for students who have never had a job and don't have a former boss, or students that maybe weren't able to get close to their faculty during the past couple of years because of the pandemic, who would you recommend be their submitter?
I would say if a student knows a career counselor, an academic advisor, if it is someone, if it's a freshman who's applying as a rising sophomore and you need to go back into high school to a coach or a teacher that knew you there, that would be a good way of doing that. If you've worked on any student films and you have somebody who has supervised you, those people can also write letters on your behalf, as long as it's somebody that has known you in a supervisory role and can speak to your work ethic, your maturity, and your passion. Those would be fine.
Awesome. And then going off of that same question, a couple people were asking about having been previous applicants, if they can reuse a letter of recommendation that they used on a previous application. Is that okay, or is that not recommended?
Honestly, I think that if somebody applied last year and they're applying again, I think it's wise to get a new letter of recommendation. A lot of things can change, new things that, even put you across in a better light. Whether you want to go back to your same refer or not, that's fine too. But I definitely would say to get a new letter of recommendation.
I also have a couple of questions asking about housing. There's a couple people asking about potential opportunities for housing assistance or financial aid in the internship. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, Nancy?
Sure. We do have, we are a nonprofit, but we do have some small funds to assist students. So if you do need help with housing, you can submit your federal financial aid packet, and then we have a system internally where we take a look at that, and then we see who and how we can help, because we certainly do want to help. We also provide assistance in terms of hooking people up with each other. There's an intern contact list that goes out during the summer so that everyone has an opportunity to talk to one another. It goes out well enough in advance that you can reach out to folks and say, hey, I'm looking for a roommate, or do you know a sublet? Some people did Airbnb. Sometimes there are dormitories. Some of the campuses here in Los Angeles will have summer housing at affordable prices. So please don't let that prohibit you, that fear of not being able to afford to live here or come here. Please do not let that deter you from applying for this opportunity.
Awesome. And I have another question for all of our fantastic intern alumni here. Someone was asking in the chat if you ever felt discouraged or nervous about the application process and how you might have worked through that.
Just because I think I just have really bad imposter syndrome, especially just like something about like writing an episode of TV is kind of just like, I don't know, it's very vulnerable and it's a very personal experience. And it's kind of like, I don't know, at one point you're like, who do I think I am? Like, I just wrote an episode of TV. So I think that was kind of like the hurdle in terms that I was kind of fighting. It was just like kind of beating that imposter syndrome. But I believe Dara or someone mentioned it earlier, just like kind of recognizing who you are and that you're here for a reason. And so I think that's ultimately the way to kind of squash all of that.
Everybody starts somewhere. That's what I tell students all the time. All the people that we admire, all those people that are out there winning Emmys, they all started somewhere, and most of them started with an internship. So everybody was in the same place at one point.
Kaylin and Dara, do you have anything to say about that as well?
Yeah, I mentioned this earlier, but I applied twice. So the second time I was probably a little bit more nervous about it, but I also had gotten a lot more things under my belt, I'd say. I added my minor, and I also was able to create a production company with my friends. So there was a lot more things that I actively was doing that kind of settled me. And so it is kind of what Jules was saying, is like kind of putting aside like kind of the discouragement and knowing that like you've done what you've done to even feel like you can apply to the internship. So I feel like just knowing that even though like if you've applied a couple times, like just kind of building yourself up for the internship and what it requires, I feel like is really good. And just knowing that you came as prepared as you could as well.
That's awesome. And I'll go ahead and move on to another question. I have a couple people in the Q&A asking about opportunities for people who do not study theater, film, or TV in undergrad. And what would you recommend for people who are really interested in this internship program, but don't necessarily have the coursework that's backing it up in the same way? How can people apply their skills in other majors to this program?
So that's a really good question. And I have seen that happen before, where we've actually had a biology major who came in and got a script writing internship. I think, honestly, it boils down to your passion and how you represent yourself in your professional statement, as well as your resume. So have you had any kind of experience at all working on student films? If you, you are studying medicine, but you're interested in working in television and being a consultant for a medical procedure show. There's all those different ways to look at it. If you're interested in accounting, but you haven't thought about having a job working in production management or doing some sort of accounting for television, there's all these different ways of kind of going about it. But again, this is a storytelling industry. This is what television and media, we're telling great stories. So what Jules said earlier really is true, in that when you're writing that professional statement and you're putting out there what's in your heart, what is really important to you and what are you passionate about, you could be studying something that is not related to film or television, but you grew up watching television with your parents or your grandparents, or you have these amazing memories of a certain show, or how some show or storyline or character shaped your life, right? All of those things are super important. And I think those grab the reader. So again, you don't necessarily have to be a certain major. And when you check out the requirements on our website, you'll see that certain things are preferred in some areas. Obviously, if you apply for the music internship, you're going to have some experience with music composition or arranging. Otherwise, what are you going to be able to bring to the table or really gain from that? But I think it's thinking outside of the box and really just putting your heart into it. And you've got to just go for it. So it's writing to the way you would speak if you were talking to someone.
Very well said. And I have another question here for all of our panelists. Do you feel that the internship has guided you towards new opportunities or experiences that you wouldn't have otherwise encountered? And what are your next steps for pursuing a career in the industry?
I would just like to jump in. I'm talking a lot, but I'd like to jump in real quick. I think that this internship was so formative in showing me an experience that I would never have gotten otherwise. And I think in terms of just like where I look next, it's literally that Discord chat that we've started with all of our intern alum. It's connecting with the people I met at the Emmy Awards, but not just that. It was the night, I keep forgetting the name of it, but the night we all kind of had that like gathering together and kind of celebrated the end of our internship. I can't literally put it into words, just like how eye-opening this experience was in terms of just like, I don't think a lot of people really put specific wording and language over the steps you need to actually take to break through the industry. It's very romanticized, at least in my digestible college PowerPoints and presentations, just like hold your script and go to LA and you got it. Which, some do. But it was really nice to kind of just like actually get to experience something real, something tangible, and like learning what those steps are after college. So yeah, it changed my life for real.
Just to kind of jump on that, the internship program is definitely something like I said, entirely putting myself out of my comfort zone to fully experience LA and the entertainment industry firsthand. it's definitely not something I was going to have the opportunity to do in the Midwest. There's not as big of a film scene, but it's such an amazing opportunity. And kind of like what Jules was saying, now there's so many opportunities to go forward, continue connecting with our intern class, the former classes of alums, the future interns that are going to be coming up, and everyone in the industry being able to keep connecting, finding new opportunities to kind of express ourselves. It's kind of one of those things that would kind of be described as a dream in the process, like being in LA and everything. It was so unbelievable. So it's definitely just an amazing experience overall, and it's going to lead to so many amazing things in the future.
So it looks like we are getting close to the end of our time, but I know that we did have one final question for all of our panelists. And David, you want to take that away?
Sure. We wanted to ask you all, what was your favorite thing about your internship?
I know what Jules is going to say. Working on his favorite show.
That, so I didn't want to go first. When I wrote my personal statement, I mentioned that The Boys was my favorite show. So I think that ultimately, the definitive best thing about this program was that I was just able to work on a show that I just love through and through. But I do think my second choice would be the Emmy. Because that was just, I keep talking about it. I'm not sure if it's guaranteed every year, so I'm so sorry to keep talking about that. But I definitely think that comes in at a hot number 2, just because that space and that environment, particularly the creative arts ones too, for what Dara and I were able to talk about through text and over phone, that the creative arts one just really facilitates like this really personal kind of like intimate setting. You were really able to talk to like actors, directors, producers, and get to know people. And so I think that ultimately was probably number 2, but yeah, working on my favorite show.
Yeah, I think working under Kim Coleman, I mean, she's a GOAT in casting. And so I loved working her and seeing her work, and being able to have that firsthand experience. I would also have to say, just kind of meeting everybody my internship year, like Jules, I just love you, and I just love everyone that we've like met. And so I think that it's just so great because you get to network across as well as networking up. And I think that, like Jules said, like these are the people we're gonna work with, is like everybody that we've met in our year. So I feel like meeting everybody, and the Emmy Awards 100%. So it was all fun. I loved it all.
Kaylin?
Yeah, I think my favorite part was definitely just the firsthand working on the show, being able to work with the amazing team that was over at the Penguin, especially our showrunner, Lauren LaFranc, who's amazing. She's done a lot of amazing shows in the industry, and she's going to keep doing amazing things, but also being able to connect with our support staff team, who I'm still like regularly in contact with, and like messaging and chatting with them to see what's going on, what's coming up next. So I really enjoyed forming those connections with all of them, and being able to kind of keep being connected with them. But also kind of like jumping on what Jules and Dara had said, the Creative Arts Emmys were also incredible to be able to see. So hopefully that'll be something that is able to come back in the future as an opportunity for the interns, and also just being able to meet everyone in our internship class, having those moments when like the networking night, we're in the professional development sessions where we were able to all come together and chat and hang out in person, because we're all across different companies and across the city. So there's not many opportunities like that, but each one of those opportunities was just really amazing.
Great. Well, I think the common thread through all of this, from what I've heard from all 3 of you quite a bit, really has been access and opportunity. And really, I mean, that is so important. And I hope that all of you on this call this evening will visit our website, take advantage of the next couple of months to, it'll be here before you know it. The deadline to apply is January 19th at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and we stick very firmly to that. So start, thinking about what category are you interested in, start getting your referees together for your letter of recommendation, work on that resume. I know that David is going to be sending out an evaluation to everybody, so please take a minute to fill it out and let us know what you thought of the information session. And I really want to thank you so much, Kaylin, Julian, and Dara. So very proud of you. Can't wait to see what you do next. David, thank you for all your support. And I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for being here.
And I wanted to quickly mention before we all head out, I dropped a flyer for our internship program into the chat. Feel free to download that and take a look at that. It has information on deadlines and just anything that you'll need to really get started on your application.
Reach out with any and all questions. We at the foundation are here to help and support. So thank you all. Have a good night.